Hey, what's going on, wrestling fans? It's the WD and Violet Wrestling Show. Here with your Raw review for October 13, 2014.
I'm back.
It's Violet and WD here. Now, how did this show kick off?
Dean Ambrose came out talking shit.
He's talking about how he wants to be locked in a cell with Seth Rollins and that there's only one thing standing in his way and it's pissing him off, and that's John Cena. Cena comes out and he says, "Now chill, man. It's still 2 weeks before the Hell in the Cell."
John asks if you want some advice. He says that this match is going to be the match of your life, and he recommends that you give it the 2 weeks
Before the Hell in the Cell pay-per-view. And you know, screw that. Cena sucks. Triple H and Stephanie come out and they say for their personal amusement they'd like to see Cena and Ambrose in a tag match tonight and against Stardust, Goldust versus the Usos in a three-way tag match. So this worked into an improv match right away, as a matter of fact. So we had the triple threat tag team match with Goldust and Stardust, your tag team champions, against Cena and Ambrose against the Usos. This match started off pretty lousy. The most of this match was unmemorable, unexciting, and most of all, boring. Cena, especially when he was in the ring, was terrible. The best parts of it was Ambrose and the Usos when they got in the ring together. And what was with the freeze out of the Goldust and Stardust?
Yeah, they didn't get tapped in until about 6 minutes into the match. And then they went to, we didn't even see that part even occur. They went to commercial, and when they came back on the commercial, the Dust Brothers were in the match. Now, something I'd like to discuss about this match is the formatting of this. Yeah.
Now, traditionally in a three-way dance or in a three-way match, you would have three wrestlers in the ring at one given time. Now, there was only two in this, and this made no sense to me. So, one of the opposing tag teams is supposed to go tag in one of the other opposing tag teams?
That doesn't sound right.
No, that makes no sense. This was done very, very sloppy, and I don't understand why they diverted from their format. This should have been three participants in the ring at each time, one from each tag team going at it at every given time. I don't understand what the hell was going on. And then not just that, but Goldust and Stardust didn't even get in for like 6 minutes. It was almost like a freeze out, and not just that, but Stardust had to force his way in.
Yeah, he had to rip
Jey Uso right off the mat and throw him into the barricade, and like that was just nuts. I couldn't believe this. This was incredibly bad, bad planning by the WWE, very poor. But they were trying to set something up ultimately at the end. Of course, Cena and Ambrose pick up the win. There was an AA and a Dirty Deeds done to the Usos, and then your favorites came back out. The Authority. And they said, why wait before Hell in the Cell? Let's have that contract on a pole, no holds bars match tonight.
They want to see Ambrose and John Cena tear each other apart.
Yeah, we'll see about that. So now we settle in for a 7-minute main event, which is pretty typical of the WWE, instead of a
Pay-per-view.
Possible half-assed decent pay-per-view match. Don't you agree?
Yeah.
And what the hell was going on with that? This should have been at the pay-per-view. They changed things later with who Cena's going to face and with who Ambrose is going to face, because they got that contract on a pole match. Next up, we had a Divas tag match. AJ and Layla versus Alicia and Paige.
Now, if you remember last week, AJ walked out on Emma.
Tag match last week, exactly. And so they were kind of playing on that a little bit. There was some actual wrestling moves in this match, and that was interesting. They came out of AJ and Alicia. They're two veteran divas.
Layla walked out while AJ tried to tag her in.
Well, this didn't really matter for AJ as she countered herself from the distraction, hit Alicia with the spinning back kick, and picked up the win. She did chase after Layla and ended up throwing it into a railing, evidently ending that tag team little debacle between them two. So AJ, I guess, is on to her next tag team partner.
Right?
You know, she's changing it every week, right?
Mm-hmm. So, remember, she doesn't have any friends and doesn't want any friends.
She doesn't want any friends. Or Paige was her best friend, so she's upset about that. Mm-hmm. You know, girl trouble. Girl drama.
It's always girl trouble, right?
What about that cutscene with Triple H and Randy Orton? Yeah, Randy Orton, he came out talking about how he was going to take care of Dolph Ziggler tonight, and how he wants the winner of, or evidently the loser, I should say, of the contract on a pole match to face a Hell in a Cell inside a Hell in a Cell, making a double main event for Hell in a Cell. I guess this is their way of compensating for the Beast being out. So, no WWE title, but you get 2 Hell in a Cell matches at Hell in a Cell. So there you go. You happy about that?
Not really, because doesn't that make our main event more or less main event?
No, there's no title being defended. Next up, an Eric Rowan Wyatt promo. Now, I guess we can't call him Wyatt anymore. I guess he's not going to be part of the Wyatts. Remember that Bray Wyatt one we saw later on in the night?
Oh, yeah. That was very interesting.
Looks like they're going to be pushing Bray as singles as well, so we'll just see how these things line up. My prediction at this point, this will accumulate a Hell in a Cell. Whatever's coming, it's coming. He's let all these free and all this stuff. Hell in a Cell, my opinion. I bet they'll interfere in one of these main event matches. Ziggler Randy Orton match. And Cesaro sat ringside for this one. And he says that Dolph Ziggler owes him an Intercontinental title shot. You remember SmackDown a few weeks ago whenever he held the rope on him in that match? And he said, yep, that's exactly right. And he says he wants to be the Intercontinental champ. This match sucked. Now, I thought that Ziggler and Orton would put on a show, but these two don't work together. I was expecting like a Kofi Kingston, Randy Orton rematch from last year kind of feeling, where Kofi ended up beating him out. But that didn't happen. Rollins came down the ramp in this one, which he wanted to be by Randy Orton's side, I guess. And Orton stayed in control. There was that really cool top rope superplex.
Yeah.
That was very well executed. Don't you think this should be a finishing move? But everybody kicks out of it. Why? It's a superplex.
I'm like cringing in my seat, like, that gotta
It's
hurt.
like the highest point you could be in wrestling and being slammed on the mat at max velocity. I mean, I don't think there's anything else that can be compared to that. And these guys still kick out of it. But a Dirty Deeds will, win a match, or, John Cena or AA. They used to call it the FU. That was back when,
Way back when.
So anyways, that suplex is real freaking cool.
I thought that was the end of the match.
Yeah, that's what I thought too, but there wasn't. They went back and forth for a little while longer.
It was a really long match.
Yeah.
Probably about a good 10-15 minute match.
Yeah, they were, like I said, back and forth. Orton wins with an RKO. Now, it looked like he had him up for a power bomb, and then he threw him up in the air and grabbed him on an RKO, and that was pretty cool. Rollins' little greedy ass comes down to the ring and takes advantage of a wounded Ziggler in the ring and proceeds to curb stomp him. And guess what's next? Seth Rollins' match, and he fought Jack Swagger. I'm gonna be real with you. I'm trying to read my notes here and make sense of it, but this match, I just gotta say, was gay. Man, there was nothing important or relevant that I even wrote down that has any importance.
I think Jack did a Swagger bomb and Seth kicked out.
Seth kicked out of it. Why? That's typical. Orton came down, and Swagger ended up botching about 4 moves in a row. I remember that much. And Seth Rollins got the win with the shitty roll-up. It was one of the shittiest roll-ups I have ever seen.
Like, I think Jack was trying to do a Patriot lock, but somehow he got rolled up and got pinned.
Yeah, this was like going in the history books for shittiest roll-up of all time. Like, this is comparable to Stone Cold Steve Austin and Owen Hart back from 1997 when Austin had a screwed-up neck and couldn't finish the match, and Owen sloppily rolled him up. But there was an excuse there. Yeah. This right here was just no excuse. Swagger was clunky, did not want to roll. He looked bad.
And he was in the corner.
Yeah, and then Orton came back into the ring because he was on the ramp during this thing and RKO'd Swagger, just like Seth Rollins stopped Ziggler in the match before. They started getting into a shout match, Orton and Rollins did. And looked like they might be teasing a feud between them two later on. But I had Rollins ultimately walking away. Next up, we had Big Show and Rusev again.
for the third
Yeah, it's about the third week. Yeah, third time. Yeah, definitely. Lana came out talking mad shit, drawing heat against the USA. And Rusev said Big Show's actions have consequences, referring to the flag pull down 2 weeks ago on SmackDown. Big Show came down, and this match started off just like any two big man match would. Big Show hit him with a big boot right away. But then
slaps on the chest.
Slaps on the chest, clubs to the back, ended up getting him outside the ring, throwing him against the barricade, the announce table, and worked him over pretty good. Rusev hit a drop kick on Big Show, and then that's when the whole match changed.
Really? A drop kick?
Yeah,
from Rusev?
From Rusev. Hit a drop kick on the Big Show. How did he even get that high?
I'm like, the Big Show has to be at least 7 foot tall.
Big Show used to do drop kicks too, back in his WCW days.
I gotta see that.
Oh yeah, check it out. Big Show does drop kicks, even off the top rope.
Top rope?
Top rope drop kicks out of the Big Show. From WCW, yeah, no lie. I'm dead serious. So Rusev gets him in an accolade, and that's when Mark Henry proceeds down the ramp. There was a lot of this in the night, a lot of interferencing going on. Rusev sees this when Henry gets up on the apron. Rusev attacks Mark Henry, gets Big Show back in the accolade, and then that's when Henry goes and attacks Alexander Rusev, causing a disqualification.
Rusev wins.
Stays unpinned and unsubmitted.
So Rusev is on the sidelines waving the Russian flag.
And Big Show and Mark Henry corner room, and Big Show knocks him out with his knockout punch.
Kabam.
Victory for America, kind of. They didn't want Rusev to look weak, so they had to, make America win without actually losing. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes any freaking sense at all. So, speaking of repeat matches, how about Miz and Sheamus again? Didn't I just complain about this? I mean, wow. This was another one of these pathetic matches. It saw Miz scrambling outside the ring, ended up in a cat chase. This was the highlight of the match, by the way. A cat chase with Sheamus chasing the Miz around, only to have Miz go under the ring and Sheamus focus attention on Mizdow. While he was focused on Mizdow, Miz slid onto the other side of the ring and got back in the ring, and the referee counted out Sheamus.
Yep.
What a waste of my time. Wow. They have nothing better to do with the Sheamus character other than humiliate him at this point. I mean, really. He needs to be in a world title picture, and what is this shit? He's out chasing the Miz. Like, you might as well be whipping him with a towel while he's doing it, Like, this is just really bad. Like, it was funny the way, like, Miz fell down and acted like he was hurt, and then Sandow acted just like him, acting like he was hurt, sitting side by side, wearing the same clothes and everything, acting like they're hurt simultaneously.
Like every time the Miz makes it go, ah, you can see Mizdow go, ooh, too. I'm like, oh gosh.
Oh man, this Raw was really disappointing because of the fact that I was watching the clock in this one, and before the main event started, I calculated that there was about 8 minutes left, and wouldn't you have rather seen Dean Ambrose versus John Cena at the pay-per-view, regardless if John Cena has to be involved in the Dean Ambrose thing? Wouldn't you have rather seen this at the pay-per-view than on Raw?
Oh, yeah. And it would have been a lot more entertaining.
Much more entertaining. But nonetheless, let's get into it. They both, of course, came down. John Cena was first, and then Dean Ambrose. After Ambrose followed Seth Rollins, Kane, and Randy Orton. Now, they're going to hide out on this one like lumberjacks. Mm-hmm. This was another unmemorable match, in my opinion. There was nothing real relevant about this. John Cena just flat can't wrestle.
Yeah. He's very blotchy.
He's just
bulky.
Clunky. He's not athletic. Like, he's big and he's got big muscles, but he's just not athletic.
He can lift weights.
Yeah, and pick up heavy wrestlers, but he doesn't move like an athletic man should move. And that's what made the match really crappy, in my opinion. Cena ended up getting Ambrose and throwing him into the Kane and Rollins and Orton outside, prompting them to come into the ring in a brawl ensued. Since this is no disqualification, there was no disqualification. So it continued on until Cena and Ambrose are able to get the upper hand. Now, when Cena was giving Kane the AA, Ambrose snuck around and reached up the pole and grabbed the contract. sealing the deal between him and Rollins at Hell in a Cell, which, in my opinion, is probably going to be the match of that night.
Yeah.
So, and then Cena now gets Randy Orton inside the Hell in a Cell.
Like we haven't ever seen that before.
For the 100th time. Yay. The Hell in a Cell is not going to be very fun because of the lack of the WWE title and Brock Lesnar there. But nonetheless, this Raw gets a 5 out of 10. I was very disappointed, especially being 2 weeks away from the pay-per-view. Now, next week's the go-home show for Hell in a Cell, so we'll see how that goes. But until then, I'd like to thank you. Thanks to all my subscribers. Thanks to Full Review, NFL Predictor 316, the Kansas Dipper. I really appreciate it.